Okay. So I recognize over half of you, um, but some of you are new to the program, so welcome. Uh, my name's Dr. Grafton Eliason, but most people just call me Grafton. My first name, that's fine. It's a pretty informal department at Cal U. Um, the we're going through a lot of changes, and so we went through the whole COVID thing, and now we thought we'd be back face to face, but we're moving to a brand new building. And so I walked into Cal U this afternoon, and we were going to be in Keystone one last time this summer. But I walked into 419 and they had disconnected all of the electronics. I couldn't even turn on the lights. And they were moving the overhead projector and the screen and everything. So we couldn't even turn on the lights in the room. So at that point, so many people had requested to be on Zoom and we didn't have a classroom. So I made the executive decision to just have it on Zoom. So I'm sorry if anybody is disappointed in this class. Our other class, we had so many people sign up for the class. We had 10 people on the waiting list. We had people wanting to get on the waiting list. I'd like to think that's because I'm teaching it for the first time in a while. Maybe not, I don't know. But Jake usually teaches that. He's an excellent professor in DSM as well. But yeah, the other class is completely on D2L. They were the waiting list. Some people from this class moved over there, and we had some people who couldn't even get on the waiting list. So we're going to be recording this. I'm going to be uploading it after this class, and then I'm going to put it on D2L tomorrow morning for them on Tuesday mornings. I do have complete recordings of most of the lectures already uploaded because this was previously a face-to-face class, but I did run it one time in a 10-week online session that once the very first semester we went online for COVID. And they're kind of primitive because they have some pixelation. My hair's really weird. I normally don't like the fake backgrounds or like the blurred background behind me, but my home office is in the middle of renovation. It's just a bunch of boxes, so you get a blurred bedroom instead. But I did make the bed, so there's that. All right. So what we're going to do tonight is, this is the first time I've ever taught what I consider a core course. And by a core course, I mean one of the more important courses like theories, DSM, something like that. Those are like the big courses. This is the first time I've ever taught one of those courses in 7 weeks. It's a lot of information. And I consider those core courses because these are courses that you really need to know going into practicum and internship and field education. So it is going to be very time consuming on your end during the week. On the other hand, it is going to be hopefully enjoyable because the way I created it, it's a lot of what I hope you will find interesting documentary videos to watch. Not so much reading. There will be reading. It's all from the DSM desk reference, so not a lot of reading. It's just right from the DSM. So you read the diagnosis, and then you watch a documentary about people who have that diagnosis and how they're treated. So it's all kind of really, not really hands-on, but really direct learning. You get to see an actual client, you get to see them treating the client, you get to read right from the DSM. And so I guess the word is applicable. It's all applicable to what we're talking about. Normally in a face-to-face class, I would wheel in a VCR and I would be playing VCR cassettes because, yes, I have my favorite tapes. So I did have to substitute some videos for you, but I still think they're all pretty good. I think the time consuming aspect is, I would say you need to look at least, not this week. This week's kind of an introduction. Yeah, this week will take some time, but starting next week, you're probably going to have to look at least one diagnosis a day. Okay, so that's about an hour a day. And then I would write up what you want to say on your discussion post, maybe a paragraph about that diagnosis right after you watch the video and read about that. So I wouldn't, it's almost impossible to do it all in one day. And it's a lot for your mind to handle. I would just divide it up and just do like one diagnosis a day. It's a lot less confusing. You'll retain it better. It's just a lot easier to divide it up that way. With that being said, we can't even hit all of the diagnoses. It's impossible. So I picked out all of the diagnoses that I think you will come into contact with the most as clinical mental health practitioners. I also picked the ones that I think will appear on the comps and on the NCE. And believe it or not, there's not tons of diagnoses on those exams, but of course there is a section on those exams. So there is some. It's not a major part of it, but I think it is a major part of your internship. As you do each one of these exercises each day, you can use my notes as a study guide. That's why I give you my notes. I give you my notes to use as a study guide. If you find a mistake in my notes, please let me know. Please correct them, because then I can fix it for the next students. If there is a mistake, or if you think, oh, I missed something, I didn't add something, or maybe I talk about a diagnosis and I don't have notes on that. I don't have notes on every single diagnosis we cover. And you want to add some notes, please do. It benefits the students, and the more notes that we can give all the students, the better for everybody. Because it's like a library of study guides for all the students that come after you. And then you'll see I both emailed them to you, but they're also on D2L. So the other thing is, and we'll go over this a little more, I really had to think about how to assess or evaluate in this course, because it's only 7 weeks. So if you've had me before, I like making role play videos, and I like you to be like with a client and make a video. And but we just don't have time to do that. So we don't have time to do a role play in 7 weeks. It would just be too much to do that for everybody. Um, and exams. I usually give 2 exams in DSM. And I think that would be too much as well. But I do think what's important is a case study, and that's going to be your final paper is a case study. And so what I decided to do instead of, so the case study is going to take the place of a video, and that's going to be your final paper. And but what's going to take the place of the exam? And that's why I really want you to take your time and put a lot of effort into your discussion posts. That's going to take the place of your exams. Okay, so you're going to have 7 weeks, 7 discussion posts. 70 points out of 100 is going to be your discussion posts. Okay, so that's, you know, going to be quite a bit of writing each week, but by the end, you'll be done 70%. And then the last 30% is going to be your final paper. So it's going to be, you're going to be doing a little bit each week. It's not going to be all at once, and you're not going to be all stressed out over an exam. But with that being said, a discussion post can't just be a paragraph. Okay, you have to talk about each diagnosis that we go over that week. We're going to have some articles. We're going to have videos. We might have 2 videos. One takes one view of a diagnosis. The other takes another view. So like one might be against medication for ADHD. One might be for medication for kids. So how do you stand on that? You know, so it might be talking about a controversy. And I don't care which side you take. I just want you to talk about what you think about it. You know, there's no right or wrong answer. You know, I just want you to stand up for what you think. And give your reasoning behind it. Maybe you have some personal experience, you know, and you can share whatever your personal experience is in this class. So let's talk about that a second. I would like you to respect each other's confidentiality, because if anybody shares a personal story, maybe somebody says, well, I have that diagnosis. I'm using some medication. Please don't share that with other students or other people outside of this class. They're sharing something private and confidential. And as counseling students, I'd like you to respect their privacy. So please don't share that, and please respect each other's confidentiality. You know, we each also have our own viewpoints on different subjects, like different diagnoses, and that's fine. And you might not agree with some of the things I say, and that's okay too. I just want you to tell me why you think a certain way. And it might be from personal experience, or maybe a doctor told you something. Share why you think a certain way. I might learn something new. I'm always open to that. One thing that's really important that I'd like everybody to know is a lot of you might have young people in your homes. Please watch these videos in private. These are not for children. These videos talk about mature topics. They talk about violence. They talk about schizophrenia. They have swearing in them. They talk about sexuality. These videos that we're going to be watching in DSM are for adults who want to be clinical mental health counselors. They are not for children. So don't watch them in the same room as your children. All right. So that's my disclaimer about these videos. They are for professional adults. All right. Let's see what else. Okay. So when I took the DSM class as a student, as a master's degree student, the first thing that I thought was that I had every diagnosis that was mentioned. I'm like, I have those symptoms. Maybe I have that diagnosis. And then I realized, no, I really don't have that diagnosis. My family has that diagnosis. So, if it's not you, it may be your family or your friends. But in reality, maybe, maybe not. Who knows? So that's the first thing we think. We think, oh, that's describing me, or that's describing somebody I know. But chances are probably not. However, sometimes we may talk about a diagnosis that a student may have, and that's okay too. Just remember that just because I'm talking about a diagnosis does not mean I am talking about you personally. So let me give you an example. I might say that ADD is the most over-medicated diagnosis in the world. And you might think, I'm diagnosed with ADD and I'm taking medication. Well, just because Grafton said it's over-medicated diagnosis, I'm not saying you shouldn't take medication. So don't personalize what I'm saying. You may be perfectly diagnosed. You may need medication. I'm not talking about you personally. Okay, I have no idea what your diagnosis is. I don't know what your history is. I don't know what your symptoms are. I don't know anything about that. I'm just giving you statistics, studies, generalities, and what I've read and what I've experienced over the last 30 years in practice. So maybe I saw 1,000 children, and maybe only half of them should have been on medication. The other half, maybe not, but half of them should have. So, don't take what I say personally. So that's the point of this. What I'm saying is not directed at you personally. I'm going to be talking a lot about different controversies. I'm going to be talking about what they do in America because of our pharmaceutical industry versus the rest of the world. And because of lobbying groups, and how Europe may handle a diagnosis versus how America might handle a diagnosis, things are very different. Why is that? Doesn't mean one is right and one is wrong. I'm just pointing out the differences. Let's see what else. There are some subjects that we'll be talking about that people have difficulty talking about, like human sexuality, like trauma, like sexual trauma. If that is an issue, you know, just be aware that that is a topic you are going to come into contact with as a therapist, and you may need to seek counseling if you are continuing to have emotional responses regarding those things. Let's see what else. Just because we go over a topic, like if we go, like I reserved an entire class on sexual dysfunction. It's a big topic. But just because we spent a class on sexual dysfunction doesn't mean you can become a sexual therapist. Okay, so, you know, you're going to need extra training to focus on specific dysfunctions or abnormalities, like eating disorders, things like dissociation and multiple personalities, anything that's truly life-threatening, sexual dysfunction, anything that might require an operation. All of those things would require extra training and supervision over time. So, you know, I would encourage you, you know, if that's something you're interested in, take the extra classes, get the extra training. Maybe there's an extra certificate or something like that. But this is just like theories, you know. And maybe you're interested in Gestalt or another theory. You can get a whole certification in those theories, you know, and we just spent one class on them. So, all right. What else? I will tell you stories about my clients, and some of them are funny. And if the story's funny, I'm not making fun of my client. I usually laugh with my clients. I've had, you know, years with the clients I'm sharing these stories about. I'm not making fun of my clients. And any story that, you know, we're laughing about, I have laughed with my client as well. I'm not laughing at my client. And let's see. Okay. So let's look at, I'm going to share my screen, and then we'll look at D2L in the syllabus. So what I was thinking about this class was that, and my hope for it before I share the screen was that, like tonight, I watched the video I recorded on the history of the DSM, and it's up on D2L, and you can watch that after class or anytime this week and comment on it. So I'm not going to go through that again, but what I had hoped to do on the Zoom portion of this class was to supplement with examples and stories, and to answer your questions in person, and to have you share any examples or stories or things that you posted in the discussion section. So I wanted this part to be, yeah, I want to add to what I shared in the recorded lectures, but I also wanted it to be kind of a graduate level discussion. I know that's always hard in a class because people really don't want to talk, but of all the classes, DSM should be the class to talk, because there, of all the classes, you know, human abnormalities, you should have some questions about that and some examples, because this is what you're going to run into with your clients, because every client's going to have some diagnosis. So this is it. This is what you're going to be dealing with as a therapist. So you should have something to say about this, or at least some questions. So I guess I'm asking you to be prepared to talk in this class, to participate, to at a graduate level. Let's have a discussion. You know, there's going to be so much that you watch during the week, so much that if you don't have something to talk about, it's almost impossible not to have something to talk about with everything that I've provided for you to watch during the week. So if not like one of the videos, well, you'll see. I'll show you. There's just so much. So okay, well, let's take a look. Oops, I want to share the sound. I always forget to do that. Okay, so everybody should be able to see that. So this is what it looks like when you log on to D2L, and you'll have all your classes listed down below here. So this is the 001, that's this class, and the 400, that's the pure D2L class. So we're going to go to the 001 class. The other one looks the same. They're exactly the same. And anybody in the 400 D2L class, you can come to the Zoom too. All right. So this is the announcement page, and I always email the announcements too, just because I want to make sure you received it. But most of the stuff, oh, and I'm having to redo the discussion boards. So you can see there's too many discussion boards here, but the ones you want to use, it's week 1 discussion board, week 2 discussion board, week 3 discussion board. So I'll show them to you. So we go to content, and right now, if I go view as learner, content, this is what you see. So you'll see week 1, and this is what it looks like. Okay. And so you'll have the syllabus, you'll have a video lecture. So all of my personal lectures, they'll say video lecture, and then it'll give you the topic. So this is the history of diagnosis. And it takes you all the way back to before the first DSM. And it's got some things. So honestly, of all the things I've seen on the comps and the NCE, the history of diagnosis, I've seen more questions from this lecture than any other one. like they have some weird questions on there, like lycanthropy and tarantellum, and they'll ask you, you know, all kinds of things about different subjects. Like, what do they call it when they thought evil spirits were in your mind and they drill a hole in your skull to release them, you know? So questions like that are on these exams. Well, they're all covered in this lecture. All right. And then, so let me just show you what this section looks like before we go into the syllabus. So I got the fake background and the weird pixelized hair, but it should take you right to this because it's on YouTube. I haven't had any problems with my lectures. And they're usually between 30 minutes and an hour. And then I give you the notes. They're all in Word, but I also emailed these to you so you can print them out if you like studying from them on paper. And okay, so the next thing is I sent you a journal article. It's called On Being Sane in Insane Places. And this is really one of the things I want you to write about in your discussion post. So you're going to write about, I have questions in the discussion post. You're going to write about the lecture, the notes, and this article. And this is a famous study about some journalists who pretended that they had schizophrenia and they were locked in an institution. And I want to see your response about that. And then I have, okay, so it says video presentation from Films on Demand. Okay, so Films on Demand. And if you click on this, you might see this screen, okay? Don't fill out email address and password. Go to type the name of your institution. And I type California. You only have to do this once. And here's California University of Pennsylvania. And then you type your name and password and log in. And then go down to do not ask me again and accept. You only have to do that once and it should save it. And that'll get you into our library, Films on Demand.
Grafton. I don't think that it's showing what like you think it's showing us. Like it's still on DSM-5 video presentation from Films on Demand.
Oh, it didn't show you where it went?
No.
No.
Did it show you what I typed in?
No.
Well, let's see.
You did a good job explaining it, though. We were there for the vision.
So this is where it takes you. But yeah. So let's see. So once you type that in, yeah, once you type it in, it automatically takes you there. So yeah, what happens is Anything with films on demand, that's something from our library. And if it does not work, you can just go to our library website. And up at the top, it says, well, let's just do it. I'll just show you how to do it. All right, you can see this, right? So this is our library website. All right, so frequently used resources, can you see that?
Yep.
And then go down to films on demand. And this is if the link doesn't work, okay? Oh, they changed, look at that. Changed it to Penn West already. Let's see, can we select our institution? California University. See if it'll let me in. Come on. Let me in. Oh, it let me in. All right. And then I got to do my authenticator. Don't ask for 30 days. Authenticate. There we go. All right, that's films on demand. So just in case it doesn't, that link doesn't work, I'd say it almost always works, but you can just type in the name of the film. So this is Sane in Insane Places. And there it is. So you can still watch it. You know, there's lots of ways to watch the film in case it doesn't work. They're all from our library except for one or two. Okay, but most of these links work. All right. This one, it says, this is a very long video from our library, Films on Demand. It's a training seminar for DSM-5. Don't watch all 5 hours. I've had students watch like 5 hours. Like, Grafton, that was 5 hours long. Just watch segments 1 through 15. They're like, you know, 3 or 4 minutes each. So that just takes you through like the first 20 pages of the DSM, the introduction of the DSM. So that's important, just the first 15 segments. So if I show you this, and let me show it to you this way. So over here, they have the segments. So you're just going to look up to making final list. So you're going to go through like differential diagnosis, narrow our thinking, and up to number 15. All right. And the last thing is the discussion board. And the discussion board, each one you'll have like discussion board for week 1. And if any of the discussion boards don't work, just email me and I'll fix it, because I had to create new discussion boards because they moved our D2L to Penn West. So if for some reason you can't post, let me know, I'll fix it. So here's what I would do. I would as you move, so let's say you watch my video on Tuesday, my lecture on Tuesday, I would open up a Word document and respond to it. What'd you think about some of the things I said? And then I'd save it. And then maybe you watch on, or you read on Being Sane in Insane Places, Wednesday, open up the Word document, write your response, save it. And then maybe you watch, this presentation on the DSM on Thursday. Well, open up your Word document, write your response, and save it. And then cut and paste everything from that Word document into, the discussion board at the end of the week, Friday. So you can just keep adding to a Word document for the discussion board. And that's the easiest way. And then at the end of the week, you can just cut and paste it into the discussion board. I also ask you some basic questions so you can introduce yourself to each other. So what brought you to clinical mental health? What are your expectations for the class? Do you have any experience in counseling? Maybe you work with like kids with autism. Well, that's experience, where do you see yourself working? Please read the assigned book pages. Please read on Being Sane and Insane places. What's your reaction? Was it ethical? What were some of the issues? Do any of them continue today? For this discussion post, please respond to the questions in the post, the class lectures, the readings in the book on Being Sane in Insane Places, the video from Films on Demand, the notes with any reactions you might have this week. Include something for each area, each one of these. The discussion board post should be at least 1 page in Word, basically, single-spaced minimum. It could be longer, but it should be at least 1 page. Because remember, these are like 10 points each, and these are taking the place of your exams, okay? So there's no exams. These add up to 70 points of your grade. And I think that's pretty fair. I'd rather you take the time this way, and I think honestly, this is probably more meaningful and less stressful than a multiple choice test, honestly. So I just want you to take the time and do the discussion post well. That's all I'm saying. All right. I will respond, but I really want to discuss these in class together, okay? That's what I want a lot of our discussions to be on Zoom, and I want it to be a beneficial experience talking about all the different diagnoses and your thoughts on the different videos. So any questions about this week before we go into the syllabus? Morgan?
I was just curious, do you want us to do like references for each week and cite the materials from the lists every week?
Well, like not a real reference, but you could say when I was reading on Being Sane in Insane Places, so we know what you're talking about.
Okay, so not like an official citation
No.
or anything.
No,
Okay,
just so we know what you're referring to.
okay, thank you.
When I was watching the video on, just so we know what you're talking about.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? All right, let's look at the syllabus. So the syllabus is pretty straightforward. I do have a lot of office hours because I'm teaching another class this summer too on Thursday, theories. So if you want to talk with me about anything, like scheduling maybe this fall, or if I'm your advisor, or maybe you can't get a hold of your advisor, or maybe you have a question about one of these classes or about candidacy or anything. I don't care. I'm available to talk. So just email me and we'll pick a time to meet on Zoom, because I'm available in the summer. So I don't mind talking about anything. It doesn't have to be this class. So the textbooks, I wrote about this. The good thing I like about this, I like the little book, the desk reference, and it has every diagnosis in it. It doesn't have a lot of the studies or the background. If you really want it, you can get the big DSM. But the desk reference, the ebook version's only $10. Now, so I got the big one, I got the little one in paper, but just to see if it worked or not, I downloaded the ebook. And so I have a real Kindle, and it didn't work on the real Kindle, but it did work on an iPad, and it worked on my computer screen. So I just want to let you know that it didn't work on a legitimate Kindle, but it worked on an iPad. Excuse me, it worked on my iPad, and it worked on a computer screen, which is enough for me. That's pretty convenient. Like if you're in a session, and it's a lot easier to like, the hardest thing to do is to find a diagnosis, because like you're paging through this book with 1,000 diagnoses in them. Like you can always tell how long somebody's been in the field if you ask them, what color was the first DSM you used? Because every one is a different color. And I go all the way back to the green one. I list all the different colored ones in your notes and the year they came out. But I memorized all the codes to 3 different DSMs. And now, students who are in field, they know the codes to like the DSM-5 because they write them down for insurance all the time. And like, well, Grafton, you don't know the code to that? You're a professor. And I'm like, yeah, I know the codes to 3 DSMs. I'm not memorizing them anymore. I can't take it anymore. So I did stop memorizing the codes. But let's see. They did change. So they did change more names in this last DSM. And they used to use Roman numerals. Now they just use the regular number 5. When Demond Bledsoe taught this course, he used this book by Morrison. It's a textbook. If you want a book that explains the DSM, that's not a bad book. You can find it used. If you want a book that's like a case book, Jake uses this one, and it was written in Pittsburgh. Show Me All Your Scars, and it has a lot of different stories in it about, each story is about a different diagnosis and a case. And that's a really nice book, I think. Let's see.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, so a couple months ago, they came out with like the new DSM-5 like text revision. I'm wondering like how soon do you anticipate them like whatever changes they did there, like that to impact like comps or NCE or anything.
So has it been adopted yet? Because I have not seen it published yet.
Yeah, they
Did they
released it
approve
just in April.
in April? Yeah. So
It's
I mean,
$130 if you want to buy it. I have it.
last month they released it.
Yeah, it just came out like
Yeah.
maybe just a month or so ago.
Yeah. So honestly, it's going to take a while. Like it's going to take probably a year. Yeah. And here's how. It's all based on how long it takes insurance companies to adopt it. So, I mean, honestly, so there's two reasons. Well, I don't think they're really the reasons, but there's two things that push the industry now for adoption. I think that the original reasons are good at heart and they're ethical. It's to give better treatment for patients and clients. It's to provide the best treatment. So you find the best diagnosis, the most accurate, and you can provide the best treatment, both through pharmaceutical treatment, but also through counseling treatment. So that's the ethical question. But what really pushes the industry is a combination of the insurance industry and the computer programs they use for treatment planning and submitting documentation to reimbursement. So it's those two things. So, and it takes at least a year to update those programs, and they don't really start doing it until it's actually been adopted and published. Yeah. So I'd say, it's going to be a year before all of that. And the way they go about it is they accept both for that first year. They'll accept both. Yeah. So I'll say this in the lecture that you watch. So I will give you an example of both the DSM-5 diagnosis process, but I'll also give you an example of the DSM-4 TR, which has 5 different axes. Because if you have a client that's been around 20 years, they're going to have a pretty thick chart, and you're going to have to look back through the years. So you have to understand the old way of diagnosing too. And it's going to be the same with the next DSM. So you not only have to understand the DSM-5, you got to understand the old 5-axis diagnoses, and we're going to have to understand the next book. And I haven't even seen the new book yet. Yeah. So we have to understand the old one and the new one. Yeah. And the current one. But hey, I didn't know it was released yet. So wow, you're ahead of the game there, Charles.
I don't know about that. It was like buzz news all in my office when it came out. Everyone was rushing to like pre-order it.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah. It actually was sold out for like 3 weeks. They were like really behind on being able to get them out. So I don't know. It's the new popular thing, I guess. Everyone wants it.
Well, no one. So now I know why the E version was only $10. I'm like, that's never been $10 before. Now I know why. Well, you guys got a bargain then. All right. So, okay. Let's see. But don't worry that this is not on the newest version. I mean, because I'm even going to teach you a 10-year-old version because you have to know it. Because I remember pulling out a client's chart and I'm like, what is this? And they're like, oh, that's the old version. And that was, 20 years ago, so you have to understand the old versions too. All right. So just in case you're curious, this is the video project, but you don't have to do it. It's in red. You don't have to do it. This is the final paper. We're going to discuss that closer to the time. That's 30% of your grade. We'll discuss that in a few weeks, but it's a case study on a movie character. The main thing is you're going to take this client through an assessment, a diagnosis, and a treatment plan. That's what you're learning to do in this class: how to assess, how to diagnose, and how to come up with a treatment plan. So that's kind of the goal of this class. And instead of the 2 exams, we're just doing much more detailed discussion posts each week. It's 100 points. If you have any disabilities, I'll be happy to accommodate you. Contact John Masella. John Masella sat next to me for 3 years every Saturday in my doctoral program. This is our tentative course schedule. So what is normally a 15-week program is now a 7-week course. So I want to explain how these readings go. Now, these readings you have to get from the syllabus. So it tells you, so this is week 1. These are the readings for week 1. So the oh, I see. So if it says DSM, if you bought the big book, that's the big book. If it says reference, that's the desk reference. If it says Morrison, that's that textbook that's listed. You don't need to buy that. If it has lecture and discussion, that's the topics. If it has a supplemental reading, like that's the article I posted. The only thing I'm wondering about, I guess I missed the desk reference pages for the first week. So just read up to page 17 if you bought the desk reference. So for this week, if you bought the little desk reference, just read up to page 17. But honestly, that lecture you're going to watch, that teaches you everything in the desk reference. So that lecture you're going to watch, the first 15 topics, that teaches you everything that's in the desk reference up to page 17. It goes, in fact, it goes into more detail, that lecture. Okay, now there are some weeks that have more things to do than others, and I intentionally made the early weeks busier than the later weeks because you're going to have more time next week than you are at the end of the semester because you're going to have more projects due at the end of the semester. So don't think that every week is going to be as busy. So there's more to do at the beginning of the semester than at the end of the semester. So I just know you're going to have more projects due at the end of the semester. That's why I made it that way. Okay. And the rest is just K-CREP stuff. But make sure to look at the syllabus for the readings. That's all. And we kind of talked about everything in the syllabus anyway. All right. I just want to show you the rest, like what's going to happen next week, just so you kind of know about it, what to expect. And then we'll see if you have any more questions. So let me take it out of student view. We'll go to professor view. So like next week, there's a lot more. Okay. And so because 1 week in a 7-week course is like 2 weeks in a 15-week course. Okay. So not all of these are videos, but next week that's a video lecture on the assessment process and notes in a file. This is probably one of the more important lectures. And this is notes. This is all of the different doctors' prescription scribbles, an example of an assessment, an example of an IEP, the suicidal ideation inventory. This is another one of my lectures on ADHD, notes on ADHD, notes on intellectual disabilities. This is a PBS film on the medicated child, films on demand about adult ADHD. This is a PowerPoint on mandated reporting. This is a video on the article you're reading this week on being sane in insane places. And then we switch diagnoses and we move to schizophrenia, notes on schizophrenia, films on demand about client with schizophrenia, personality disorders, dissociative disorders. These are my lectures. You can tell the difference. And then sometimes I'll do this. Sometimes, because like there's so much that week, I'll give you a choice. Like here's 3 different documentaries. And I'll say, you can watch 1, you can watch 2, or you can watch all of them. It's your choice. So depending on how much time you have, but you only have to watch 1. So there's one on personality, there's one on multiple personality disorders, and there's one on borderline. And you can watch 1, you can watch 2 of them, you can watch all 3 of them. It's up to you. And then you're going to write about each of the diagnoses that we covered that week and the assessment process. So I just want to kind of prepare you that next week is a lot more time consuming. Okay. This week, not so busy, but it's the first week of classes. And but be prepared for like an hour at least every day. It'll be like 5 hours a week, I estimated. All right. So let me stop sharing and answer any questions that you have. So normally we'll spend about an hour on Zoom, and then you'll spend 5 or 6 hours watching my lectures and the different videos and doing some readings and writing up your discussion posts. So any questions?
when we write the responses to the articles and things like that, and then post it, we are supposed to be totally candid with if it's from our point of view, correct?
That's what I want. Yeah, you may
Okay.
totally disagree with it.
Okay.
That's
making sure.
what I want to know. You may say, I don't believe in ADHD.
That's, yep.
But here's the thing. I want to know why.
Okay. Yep.
That's the thing. I just want to know why. You have to back up what you say.
Okay.
And and here's something I forgot. It also says, so you're going to post your post by Friday night, or early Saturday morning. But then by Sunday night, you're going to respond to 2 of your classmates. Just a few sentences. So that forces you to read what your classmates write. Okay. And all I ask is that if you don't agree with what your classmates say, be respectful. You don't have to agree with them, but you have to be respectful to one another. So you're going to respond by Sunday night to what 2 of your classmates have to say. So the last thing I have to say, and I shouldn't have to say this, but D2L has this thing that if you fast forward through a video, 100% pops up. But professors don't see the 100%. They see that a student spent 1 minute on that video. And I know the video was 40 minutes long. So watch the entire video. Don't fast forward through it. All right, that's about it. Okay, last call for questions. You could always email me. We can go on Zoom. You know my office hours. If you have any questions, if you have any problems. All right. Hope this is a good class for you. If you run into any technical problems, let me know as soon as it happens so I can get it fixed, okay? All right, we'll see you later.
I got them.